Hey, Dan here from Code News. And today we're going to talk about array and object destructuring, which was introduced in 2015 in ES6 for JavaScript. So have you ever seen code like this and thought like, what's going on here? You see some import of some object, maybe an array or something, and then you see like on line 3, const, curly braces, some variable names set equal to some object name or variable name. Or on line 5, you might see square brackets with various variable names set equal to some array. Well, what is happening? I'm sure you're familiar with the standard way that we usually access data in arrays and objects, right, in JavaScript. So for arrays, right, we usually use the index value. So like you see here on 11 and 12, right, if I use fruits, because my fruits array here, if I use fruits 0, that's going to access the first value, apple. Fruits 2 is going to access the third value, orange. Or with an object, right, like my person object here, if I use like dot notation, so person dot name or person dot age, I'll be able to access those values that way. And this works, and it works fairly well. But destructuring actually simplifies the process of unpacking values from arrays and objects, making the code cleaner and more concise. Let's look at a basic example here of destructuring an array. So imagine that fruits array again on line 2. On line 4, I simply declare two variables in square brackets, right? So A and B, set it equal to fruits. And then if I console log A, that is going to be set now to equal apple, my first value. B will equal pear, my second value. And you could do this for all of them if you wanted, but it makes it really nice because you have an explicit variable now attached to that value that you want to unpack from that array. So why destructuring? And why did they even introduce it? It is a big deal. It results in cleaner code, faster development, and fewer bugs. So let's look at why. So it eliminates repetitive code. So instead of like, when you're working with objects using dot notation, you're constantly using, right, the object name, dot, the value, or the property you want to unpack, right? So instead of calling like user.name, user.age multiple times, you can unpack an object at the top of your function or the top of your code and then quickly access it by the data by variable name instead of using, this dot notation, which results in, obviously more concise code, cleaner code, and less problems. So look at this example here, right, where we have our person object again with name, email, and age. We can simply on line 8 say const, use curly braces, name, email, age equals person. And now those values from that object are attached to those variable names, and we can just simply use the variable name. So if I console log name, email, and age, I will get the values, right, of that object. It's really awesome. It makes it a lot easier and a lot simpler when you're coding. It speeds up development. So, I mean, imagine working, if you're doing simple projects, the standard method probably works, but if you're working with APIs, complex objects, and you want to grab the data that you need and only the data you need. So, you can imagine like, if you're working with a big database and you want to get book data, you just want the title author, you don't want anything else. And then those values are assigned to variables. It makes it a lot easier to ensure that everything's correct and it speeds up that development process. It also leads to fewer bugs. Destructuring makes your intentions explicit, so it leaves less room for errors. You're clearly defining variables, you avoid typos. I'm sure if you've been working with objects and you're using dot notation, it's always possible, like if you look here on line 8, right? You get an error because person was misspelled. And if you're rewriting that over and over again, it's super easy to cause it to, make a typo. And then you have a bug in your code that you have to, figure out how to debug and find. It also works great in function parameters too. So instead of passing an object, our object and assessing its properties in the function, we can unpack it actually right in the function parameters. So if you take a look at this with defunctoring and function parameter or destructuring and function parameters, on line 3, we have a function greet user. There's two parameters, name and age, and you see that they're now in curly braces here inside. So they're going to be destructured from an object. And we're going to return on line 4 here, template literal, hi, name, you are age, years old, right? So then imagine we define a user object and it has two properties, right? Name and age. So name John, age 28. Well, if we just console log now, greet user, and just pass this user object in, these values are just destructured from it. It makes it so much easier. It takes away a lot of the hassle, and it also makes it cleaner code overall. So a real quick recap, this is destructuring in a nutshell. It's easy to use, keeps your code clean, and saves you from headaches later. Next time you're working with arrays or objects, think, how can I use Destructuring to work smarter, not harder? Hope you guys enjoyed this. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more web development tips. Thanks.